So, good evening, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our webinar. And today we are joined by one of our great customers, Juan from Montreal. He's joining from Enerkem. And Enerkem is a company with an amazing purpose, whom we are very, very proud to have as a customer. Right? So when I first knew about Enerkem and was trying to understand what they're trying to do, they have a pretty amazing purpose that which all of us can relate to. And I'm going to let Juan talk more about it. But essentially today, the topic is a very unique one, right? We are really going to talk about strategy execution, but how do you turn your strategic goals into daily wins, right? And how do you really use task management along with OKRs, right? To really move the strategy execution and set up a flywheel motion, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to do today. And Juan is a pretty experienced professional, and I will probably let him take over, right? To start with an introduction, right? So Juan, welcome in. And we know that Enerkem has an amazing purpose, turning waste into renewable energy and contributing to the circular economy, right? So can you start telling us about Enerkem's mission and why it is so important today?
Yes, thank you, Senthil, and thanks very much for having me in this webinar. It's a pleasure, actually, to talk to you today. If you look at it, humanity generates about 2 million tons per day of trash that goes into landfills. This trash degenerates into methane, carbon dioxide, and many other chemicals. And if you have leaks on the landfill, that also goes to pollute the water that you have underground. So our technology permits to use that trash, that waste, and convert it into valuable chemicals in a sustainable way. So imagine with those 2 million tons per day that we generate of trash worldwide, we could propel a big container ship for about 1,000 miles. So our technology permits to do that, and we're on the mission to convert all these and avoid filling up landfills where we're just putting underground problems for our children and the next generations to come.
It's truly inspiring, Juan. It's an amazing purpose, and we are very, very happy to be associated with you and really wish great success for Enerkem. Now, moving on from Enerkem to probably your own career, I know that you've had a fascinating career, right? From startups to all the way to large enterprises, and now you are the CIO for Enerkem, right? Playing a pretty important role. Can you share your professional journey, right? How did you become passionate about OKRs, tasks, and performance as levers for execution, right? If you could throw some light with your career and as well as this, it would be really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started my career in the US on a .com, in the 2000 years, working for a startup that was about 100 people. Then I moved to a big oil and gas company for about 35,000 employees. Then I moved back to another startup where it's only 10 employees. Finally ended up in Enerkem about 2 years ago. But throughout all these companies, I saw how everybody was trying to use objectives. So you always have objectives everywhere in all these companies. You have all sort of KPIs to try to measure how you progress, how things move. And, in some companies, you have some innovative ways of trying to reach these KPIs and these objectives, and how to try to get people to do what you need to do to strategy. So in some companies, it worked very well. In some, so-so. When you talk about performance management, you see that it was more a burden that employees have to go through at the end of the year, just to, set up the objectives and all of that. So a few years back, when I was working in startup investments, I had the chance to attend a lecture by John Doerr at Rice University. And at the end of the lecture, he gave me his book and we chat a little bit. So I went and read the book. That book is fantastic because he puts into a very good OKR umbrella. It gives form, shape, and organization into all these efforts. Try to focus everybody in the company to align and achieve the results that you want for your strategy. So after reading that book, then I started looking into all the methodologies and all these organization that he proposed. So at Enerkem, we started using profit.co for our KRs because it gives you all this structure, exactly how I guess John imagined it. So we started by using the objectives and KRs module to organize all of these. Then we start looking at tasks and see how from OKRs you could set up your tasks to make sure that whatever you do in your day-to-day aligns with what you want to reach in the long term. So with tasks, you can associate them with the KRs. So your team runs into what you want to do for the objective to reach your objectives. Then you have the performance reviews. So we started using performance reviews quite a few months back, but we do them every month, and we call them Go Connect, in which the employee meets with the manager every month, takes a look at the OKRs. Then there is a connection between the two where you can see motivation, you can see how the employee is doing, how things are advancing, you review the tasks and everything together. So with this, this is how we're now managing OKRs, and the three components together, they work very well, as you call it, the flywheel. They're working very well for us.
Yeah, that's quite brilliant. Now, whenever people talk about sustainability and innovation goals, they are pretty broad, right? I'm pretty curious, how do you translate, these broad objectives into clear, actionable goals for your teams?
Yeah, so we sit together every year, and we set up all these objectives at the beginning of the year. So we set up our corporate OKRs. Then in my case, IT is one of the first ones to align because IT has to align with the objectives of the business. And then every department builds their OKRs based on this corporate OKR. So phase one is, the company OKRs, where we want to be next year. Then we get all departments to align to those OKRs, and IT obviously is one of them. And then when the departments are aligned, then we look at on IT, we say, okay, how we can help each department to achieve what they need to do through with technology. So that's how we do it here at Enerkem. We also encourage full transparency, which means that all KRs, all objectives are public, or a great part of them. So everybody knows what everybody is doing, and then people can help each other to achieve all the different objectives.
That's quite fascinating. Thank you, Juan. Now, folks in the audience, please feel free to type your questions. We are going to have the Q&A session right at the end, and if we see some pertinent questions, I might even interrupt the flow and include your questions as well, right? So please keep your questions coming either in the chat or in the Q&A. Okay. So Juan, just to continue on that thread, can you share any story or specific incident where OKRs really helped resolve confusion or misalignment between departments?
Sure. Yeah. So we had in the case of IT, we had, for example, a department asking to implement a new system, out of the blue, the typical thing. We need it. We want it tomorrow. This is urgent. Oh, this is going to save our company, blah, blah, blah. Then, we say, okay, well, let's take a look at this. And then, it was one of these things that somebody wakes up in the morning and say, "Oh, I want this." But having the OKRs for the company and seeing how this will align to that help us to resolve the question: Is this something that we need today? Is this something that is going to be a good investment? Is this something really going to help us reach our strategy? And the answer was not at the end. So we were able to say, look, let's maybe pause it for next year and see how that applies, and then next year we see how things are, and we implement it later, maybe if that is aligned with the strategy. So that helped on the IT side. That helped us to keep our cost under control and keep things in in order, I would say.
Okay. That's very useful. Thanks for sharing that nugget,
Yeah.
Juan. So far, Juan, I know you have done multiple quarters of execution of OKRs, right? So far, what has been the biggest aha moment for your teams, when they saw OKRs bring in clarity and direction?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I see very often is that I'll tend to push a lot for new ideas, to get my team to do some, additional things to solve problems, or to, to fix things, or like the example before. I'm one of those. I'm one of the guys that propose, "Oh, let's do this. This sounds fantastic," and all of that. And what is great about this is that my team comes back and does the same to me, right? So they come back and question me, "Hey, this sounds great, super nice, but is it really aligned to the objectives that we have, or do we need to switch our objectives?" And so I say, "Okay, yeah, Juan, calm down. Let's think it through more deeply." And sometimes actually we come to the conclusion, yes, we need to maybe set up an objective for next quarter, or add something to do this, because this will help the company, right? So it works both ways, but I see this happening all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty, I would say, very exceptional insight, right? In addition to the process, it really throws light on the culture that is there within Enercom, right? Number one, you already mentioned about visibility, right? So you really have 100% visibility for everyone, and as a startup, that works very well, right? It may not work for everyone, but it works very well for you. And number two, your reports, the people who are reporting to you, they have the absolute freedom to tell you that, hey, that's very good, but that's not aligned with our OKRs, right? So they
Yeah.
have the psychological safety to talk to you and point to you about, these problems. It's quite fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, Juan. Now, moving along, Juan, once the big picture is set, right? You said that, everybody comes together, you go ahead and set up the corporate OKRs, and then the departmental OKRs, and then the daily tasks. But how do you really make sure that the daily tasks truly connect back to OKRs? What's the mechanism that you use to track that?
Yeah. So, well, I'll tell you, for IT, probably the simplest example or way to talk about this. So, obviously, when you set up your big OKRs at the beginning of the year, they're quite open, and but you have key results that are very specific, right? Tell you want to achieve this and that. So what we do is, with the monthly connect, we're constantly reviewing where are we on the key results, and how far are we, and how we're achieving it, and all that. That helps us every month to set up like big big tasks, right? Very high level tasks. We need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. Then we have weekly meetings every Monday. The whole team meets together, the IT team, and we see what everybody's doing on their tasks in Profit. Then each one starts talking about their task and start creating subtasks with now very precise things that need to be done to achieve what we are set up to do. So that works very well, because every week we do like Scrum sort of meetings where we see everything. So people say, oh, I'm going to need this from AD. Okay, so I can help you with that. And I'm going to need this with SharePoint. Oh, yeah, I can do this for you. And everybody gets together. And by the end of the meeting, everybody knows what they need to do during the week until next week. So the idea is that since you have very well organized on Profit, we move the task to, okay, these are the ones for this week, and that's it. That's our focus for the week.
Yeah, I think you really touched upon a very important point. I wanted to ask you this, right, which is, what sort of rituals or processes that Enercom follows, to make sure, everybody stays on the lane, in terms of linking day-to-day work with strategy, but you have answered that quite beautifully, right? Now, going to probably another, I would say dimension, right? Have you integrated performance reviews into the flywheel, right? How do you really do that, right? You already mentioned about this goal connect meetings. I'm quite curious about it. How do you really ensure that the performance management process is not isolated, right? And how is that, how does that reinforce strategy execution, without, I would say, becoming a hurdle, right? How do you really do that?
Yeah. So look, through all this, all my life, performance reviews have always been a pain. For managers, it's like, oh, okay, we need to do this together, do it, to fill the paperwork, submit to HR, we're done. I never believed in that, because first it's like doing an autopsy of the year, right? It's okay, you did this wrong and all of that, but okay, that was like 6 months ago. So what's the use of that? So we move into more a closer thing. So when you do the performance reviews, shorter but more focused, and very often you can see problems before they happen, or before they become a bigger issue. So some sort of like, you move from doing autopsies to do preventive care, right? So you look at things as they happen every month. You can make corrections to improve motivation, to see, okay, this is not working, let's do this. And that also creates a very good connection between the managers and the employees. So it's helping us, at least in IT and many other departments that I ask, is working very, very well. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that analogy, moving from autopsy to preventative care, right? Or more proactive care. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that from you, right? Thank you. So
you have the right to do
it. Thank you, Juan. So now, Juan, I know there have been a lot of very, very interesting, examples in Enercom of whatever you're speaking. Can you talk about, any specific Enercom example, right? Where an Enercom project where, OKRs and tasks and performance cycle, right? All three of them together working to create a clear business win.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. We maybe a year ago, before we used to do we do have for our Enerkem projects, right? These big industrial facilities, with a monthly meeting where we review where the project is, right? So, what is the performance on the team? How many hours of engineering you have done? How's in that, what's the revenue, etc. All this analysis happens in a 2-hour meeting. So, to produce all the information for this meeting, the project management team was spending 1 or 2 weeks preparing all the numbers, downloading from the different systems, all the information. These guys wouldn't sleep for 2 weeks to produce the report that they will have to show to management, to executives. But all of this is, again, it was the autopsy of last month. So all the problems and all that were already aggravated. If they haven't been taken care of, you couldn't see what was coming. So we set ourselves a real-time reporting system for the company, in which we could have a dashboard where you can log in every morning and see where your project is. Pretty much like a snapshot of, with all that happened yesterday, this is where your project is, this is what is late, this is what is on time, this is the performance of your team, this is the people that are late on their activities, all of that. So we've been working on that for over a year. That was an objective that we set up for ourselves last year. Last month we delivered, I think, released 3 or 4 of the project. It's all up and running, and we have seen the improvement. So efficiency on the team's execution is way up. We see the risks and the problems, everything ahead, because now the management team has every week they can go and see where they are, so they can see, oh, this is not going well, let's fix it now, right? So it helps us a lot to become more preventive care and address the problems quickly than we could do before.
Yeah, it's quite phenomenal. It's a beautiful example. And folks, what we need to really appreciate is that unlike companies doing software, Enercom is, really operating in the tough physical world, right? And they have very strict regulatory concerns to address as well. And their projects, involve huge lead times. They need to put together physical structures, make sure everything works. Safety is hugely important, right? With all these constraints, right? And they've been, able to execute. That's truly amazing. Now, um, Juan, are there, I know you've executed for multiple quarters. Are there any quantitative results or benefits that Enercom has seen using this model of OKRs, tasks, and performance, right? Are there any improvements, anything that you can think of? Yeah.
Yeah. So as I told you, we've seen huge improvements on efficiency. And we measure efficiency as the number of hours that you spend on engineering to reach certain work, I would say, certain engineering work. But also, we've seen a lot of improvements on various parts. So HR is measuring employee engagement that has become better by, they're doing different things to engage with people, improve motivation. The Goal Connect is one of them. But we're also seeing, like in IT, we set up at the beginning of the year, reduce our costs by 10%. So what we did is with Profit, we set up different tasks and different objectives to do things. We replace some software by open source solutions. We develop some quick software to integrate them and make better use of that. We reduce our licenses. We switch from some expensive licenses to cheaper ones, and we did all sort of things. And by being able to track that, so we track every purchase every day. So when we're doing a PO or buying anything, we get together and we check every single thing to say, okay, how we can save money here? What could we do here? And by having that, we're able to way overachieve our goal. We're about 300% in terms of our goal, in terms of savings. So it has worked for IT. Has worked super well.
Yeah, it's quite stunning. I mean, the achievement of this particular goal, and particularly for a startup, right? I think that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So cost savings is one, and it's really fascinating what you've just said. But in addition to that, do you also look at, measuring your processes? Are there any efficiency gains in terms of reduced delays or faster alignment, right? Are there things that you track as well?
Yeah. So we set up ourselves. One thing we were having issues was the invoice processing. So our AP department was quite slow on processing invoices that caused some issues. So we set ourselves to improve that, and by adding some systems and also helping them with their own business processes, their efficiency. So we have much less time from the time we receive the invoice until it's all processed and ready to be paid. So we've seen huge improvements there. We set up another objective that sounds a bit simple for many people, but it was to have all the timesheets of the company on time. So timesheets is our blood, because that's what we used to charge the clients, right? If they're not on time, then you cannot invoice the client, and then your payroll is wrong because they don't know if you were on vacation, sick, or whatever, or what were you doing. So we had this big objective to have all the timesheets on time. Just to tell you about maybe a year and a half ago, we had only about 30 to 40% of our timesheets on time by the date and time that they should be done. Today, we reached about 94%. So it's only a tiny little minimum. So we use these tasks and all of that to, set ourselves tools to remind people. People will see on their KRs, every month what was the percentage of time sheets on time for the department. So we sort of put this dashboard showing departments in order. So they were like competing to see which one will achieve 100%, and then the results are there. Our the timesheets now are not an issue anymore.
It's truly incredible, right? 30% to 95%. That's really
Yeah, it's very good.
very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Now, overall, I know probably the answer, but would love to hear this from you. But what has been the impact on accountability? Do you see, better ownership and follow through across all levels because of this,
Yeah,
the way you are executing now?
yeah. The fact that you have all your KRs there and everybody can see them and everybody can see your progress, and then that every month you have to go through them with your boss and see how they are, that gives naturally more ownership and accountability for people. And also, this is how you're going to be evaluated, right, at the end of the month. So that focuses you on, this is what matters. This is what I need to do. So yeah, it helps. It has helped enormously to all the objectives and all the teams.
Sure, sure. And I think somebody from the audience, Gemma from UK, she has asked, can you please share what these dashboards look like and the flywheel, right? So Gemma, I'm not sure if he can share the dashboards right here, but we'll be happy to show you, how these dashboards, look like with, maybe not so confidential data, right? With our own sample data, we'll be able to show that for you. Okay, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So just to continue, how about the employee engagement, right? Are you seeing, better employee engagement and maybe improved morale? What has been the experience there? Juan?
Yeah. So I think that the key thing for engagement and motivation has been the monthly reviews within Profit, because that forces the manager and the employees to discuss all sort of things. So on our questionnaire, we not only ask, where are you on the KRs, where are you on this and that, but there is also some questions about motivation. How are you doing? How are you doing personally? Is anything that is, not letting you do your job at personal level or and at business level, right? So that opens the door for you to discuss. Oh, look, I suffer from insomnia, so I have been able to sleep for a month, or I don't know, my mom is having troubles, or all sort of things that could, you know, uh, um, avoid you from reaching your targets, and that also opens the door for the manager to help you, right? So I think that has helped and that has created better relationships between managers and employees.
Okay, that's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
maybe more at a personal level, wanted to, move on to areas of leadership and advice, right? How do you personally, as a CIO, use OKRs, tasks, and performance for your team, Juan?
Um, so as I told you, we define these big level, high level strategic objectives. Then at the IT level, we align with those, and then we set up our tasks and set up, what we need to do to accomplish at the company level. This is when these projects about these dashboards and real time information systems are helping a lot. Then we also see the different departments KR, and then we approach them and say, hey, I see you're having this. We can help you. We have some ideas and all that. So that has improved a lot. The relationship between IT and the rest of the departments. Um, that 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 has helped a lot in to our teams. At a personal level, well, I do my own OKRs, not in profit, but on my sales. Okay, what do you want to accomplish at personal level? By the end of the year, and I try to follow myself. Me with me. On a monthly basis, and see, okay, did I achieve this or not? Do I need to maybe switch some things or not? And I use that. I'm trying to do that with my kids, but I think they're too young still to have that sort of discipline. But I think for a teenager, with school and or university, it will be a fantastic tool if they actually get to get into the discipline. So well, I'll keep trying and I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, never thought of it. Thanks for suggesting another use case for Profit.co. That's awesome.
Yeah, you should have a profit for kids.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
Juan, for other CIOs, right? In terms of if you have to, advise people who are trying to connect strategic goals to daily wins, for fellow CIOs, what would be your advice to generate this type of a flywheel, to succeed, actually?
Yeah, yeah. I think number one is alignment. You need to ensure as a CIO that whatever your team does is for the benefit of the company. Otherwise, IT is here and the rest of the company is there. We're using many places. So IT should be like the propeller. IT is ahead of the curve always. We're always looking at tomorrow. Um, so we need to make sure that this tomorrow is pulling the rest of the company to achieve what they need to do efficiently, right? And IT today, if you look around us, you have more devices than brains uh, in humanity. So everything happens, and with AI, is going to happen more and more through with IT. So that's number one. And the way I see it is more like, when you're cutting paper, that you have to have one eye looking at the scissors where you are, and the other eye should look where you're going. So you do a straight cut. So to me, the objectives are where you're going. So that eye looking at where you're cutting to. The tasks and the performance reviews is the other eye looking at where you're cutting, right, in order to get there. So this is how I see the three things working. It's a bit on that sort of metaphor, if you want.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool way of putting it, and thank you very much for sharing that. So we have a couple of questions from the audience, but before I
Yeah.
move to that, probably a last question to you before we start looking at the audience questions. It's available in the Q&A, right? So Juan, if you have to sum it up in one line, right? What's the biggest measurable win that Enerkem has achieved with this OKR tasks and performance cycle? What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to measure it properly, but I think focus and alignment. I think that's been, to me, the greatest win. I can see how, you know be, before we start implementing all these OKRs and all of this, you had people doing all sort of things, and everybody knew sort of what we were trying to do, but there's all disconnected. This OKR concept with the tasks and everything sort of like put everybody to align. So and John Doerr was completely right. This really puts you to align and do what matters, what is best for the company.
Okay, that's awesome. So thank you, Juan. I think the responses are extremely insightful. They're going to be very useful for folks who are already implementing OKRs and who are planning to implement OKRs. We have a few questions, and let's see if you can answer, if you will have time for doing a couple of questions, right? So
Uh-huh.
I think there's a question again from Gemma, right? The question says, people are generally resistant to change, as we all know, right? When you first implemented this approach, how did you address the reluctance to change? Did they clearly see the benefit?
Yeah. So still we have some retractors. Not everything is is perfect and rosy. You always have people that, I love Excel. I'll do my OKRs in Excel, and things like that. But I think what helped us a lot was actually getting you guys to help us on this. So at the beginning, we did with you, with Senthil, and your team. We did some good training courses on how to do OKRs properly, how to set up KRs, the concepts that are behind the key results. Those were key. Getting everybody to understand what OKRs is. You cannot force everybody to read the book from John Doerr or go through all the videos that you have. But what we could do is we started with the executive team, and we did those training that you guys did was fantastic. Everybody loved it, and then that starts going down the company structure. Um, I wish we have done more training that you guys did
Okay.
for all the different levels, but it percolated, it percolated, and everybody started learning, understanding what it meant, and they said, okay, yeah, I can see things. Um, the monthly connect was also had a lot of resistance from a lot of teams. Oh, I don't have time to spend 1 month on this, and some people just don't have the personality to be open and talk to the employees with all this motivation and more human things. We're an engineering company, so we have a lot of engineers.
Right.
Um, but after having the first two or three, they start seeing the value, and then people start looking forward to the monthly connect meeting. But yeah, it's not easy. It takes time and work.
Yeah, I think those are great insights, Juan. One is invest the time in initial
Yeah,
training, right? Not
yeah,
just the tool, but really the concept, making sure everybody is on the same page. And number two,
yeah,
you are really looking at this as a great way to coach people, right? So your monthly goal connect meetings are really a great way to, make that happen, right? So that's really amazing.
yeah.
So yeah. So probably, we'll have time for a couple of more questions, right? So there is a, question which has come just now, right? How did Enercom's adoption of this framework evolve over time? Was it fast or did it take multiple cycles to get it right?
It took me multiple cycles, obviously. You cannot make a change like this overnight. So we've been on this for now 2 years on
Okay.
this
Mhm.
on this work. Uh, I have to say the first OKRs that we did were not that good. First year the OKRs were, they were really well thought, but we learned through the year as as you start seeing the results and how things are. Yeah, really, this KR that I put, I cannot measure it. How I'm measuring it, it was not precise. It was not exact. There was not a formula saying how do you wanted this outcome to take place. So first year was a learning year, pretty much. We had some OKRs that were not very obvious or clear. But when we sit down again on the second year, then it was clear. It wasn't just crisp. Everybody understood. We challenge each other, so we're proposing objectives and say, okay, but okay, that looks nice, but how are you gonna measure that? How are you gonna know that you're actually achieved that? Then yeah, yeah, you're right. Okay, let's switch it to something else. And there's a lot of work on the executive team and with the managers and everyone in different departments to make sure that everything was measurable. That's the key. Key number one is that make sure it's measurable. Um, and the other thing is that we had a great OKR captain. That's another thing that is vital for implementing it. Having this sort of expertise that goes and checks the objectives, the KRs with every single person and guides them and say, okay, challenge us, as I said, how are you going to measure this? Are you able to measure it? Do you have the elements, the tools to measure this? Okay, if you don't, then don't propose something that you won't be able to measure. So that worked. That worked very, very well. But yeah, it
That's
took a
very
year
cool.
to learn on our case.
Yeah, that's great insights. Thank you, Juan. I think I really like the fact that you've been tinkering, with the execution. You've been learning, then adapting things, and then also the importance of the role that you mentioned. Right? It's important to have a great OKR captain who will be really
Yeah,
driving the program as a program
yeah.
manager. Right? I'm glad you brought that up. Right? So pretty cool insights. Maybe the last
The
question now.
the
Yeah,
the,
sorry.
the other part it was the so each department they have the OKR expert. How do you call them? I forgot now.
Champions? You call them as
Champions. Yeah,
champion?
thank you,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So those champions went through like this very deep, specific training. These were people that were more interested in the subject, so more management oriented people. Uh, so each department has their champion, and that helps a lot because they help everybody every month, every day, every week to make sure that things are properly set and measured. Yeah,
Y- Yeah, this is particularly important. I'm glad you highlighted these points, the roles that are required to make an OKR program successful, right? So you have a program owner, who is the OKR captain, right? What Juan said, and it's very key that you have somebody who's running the program pretty well, and then they actually take help from champions, right, who represent the implementation for specific departments, right? So that's pretty
hmm
key. And thank you for mentioning that. Probably one last question from another member in the audience, Edson Ramirez. The question is, how have you approached managers who don't go into the platform to see if their teams have updated their progress, right? So if people are not going and checking whether their reports have checked in, have they done their planning, right? All of that. How do you approach
yeah,
that?
yeah. So the first year was difficult. So our OKR captain has an objective that is to ensure that everybody does check-ins on time, and it's obviously measurable. So it's a key result is everybody, every employee checks, or every department, whoever has, because not everybody has objectives and key results per se, but at least that every department has their check-ins on time. So there's a key result for the OKR captain. So this person is chasing everybody on Friday afternoon. Hey, you haven't done your check-in. Do you need help? Do you need more data? What do you need? We can help you. So, and she then contacts everybody, finance or procurement or whoever needs to give the information. Then the person can go and put the result. So that's
Yeah,
that's how we solved it. So now you have somebody chasing. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's a great way to do that. What I've seen some of our other customers do is that they do have, number one is that executives, right, need to review the
yeah,
OKRs regularly,
yeah,
right? So if you're a manager and if your executive is going to review the OKRs, right? And if
yeah,
that happens at a good frequency, maybe, once a month or
yeah,
twice a month, then obviously you will be prepared, right? So having the executive adoption is key. That's something which we have
yeah,
seen. Second, if you're using collaborative tools like Slack or Teams, right? Some nudges there. The tool itself will help you to do those nudges, right? That will be there. And we have seen some customers actually even they publish the monthly scores, right? How the different
hmm
departments are doing with respect to check-ins. So there's a friendly competition there. So there are a lot of things you can do, right, to make sure your managers really do, adopt and they are, reviewing the platform, right? We'll be very happy to share those, right? So with that, we bring,
yeah. With the other thing is the goal connect that we do. So the goal
yeah,
connect, you need to have your OKRs and your key results up to date. Otherwise, you're gonna
correct.
talk about, right? So that sort of
Correct.
forces people to put their stuff online.
Yeah, that's a great point. So in addition to, the formal performance reviews, right, Juan mentioned that they do have these goal connect meetings, right, where HR doesn't have to be there, but they are tracking whether those meetings are happening, right? So those are
Right.
the meetings between the manager and the reports, just based on the OKRs, whether they are happening, you are able to track that with the tool. and some friendly nudges can be given for people who have not completed those review meetings on time, right?
Mm.
So amazing insights, Juan. I think we could keep going, but I think we have come to the end of the slot.
the end.
We really wanted to thank you on behalf of everyone in the audience, and of course from Profit.co, for your deep and personal and beautiful insights. And this was a very, very good session, one of the best sessions. So thank you very much, Juan, for taking the time and sharing all your insights. Right, we really wish you the best for Enerkem and for you. Yeah.
Thank you, Senthil. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, folks.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
See you.
Yeah.